Okay, so today we want to look at the legal issues for entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, it's important that before you start operations or before you register the business, you take note of some legal issues so you don't get into any kind of problem when you start operations. And there are some basic things that you have to consider before you start your own venture. One of the things is that if before you decided to be an entrepreneur, you were already working with an organization as an employee, it is important that you resolve all your issues with that employer before you proceed to start your own business, especially if the business you are going into has some bearing on what you were doing on your previous role. Okay, where you were previously working. If what you want to do now has some relationship with it, then it's important to be careful. There are some organizations that will make you sign a document that says that you will not when you leave that organization and when you resign, you will not do anything that is related to the operations of that business until some number of years, until after some number of years have passed. So it's important that if you were working with such an organization and you have quit and now you want to start something by yourself, but what you want to start is related to what you were already doing as an employee, it's important that you seek legal advice on what to do so that you don't get yourself in trouble. So it's important that you close all dockets with your previous employer before you move on. It's also important that you choose a name for your business that is not already existing. Okay, so if the name you have chosen or if the name you have decided to use for your business is such that it has already been used by another person or by another organization, then you cannot register the business. Okay, so you need a unique name that has not already been registered as your company name. And then you also file all the needed documents. In our case, at the Registrar General's Department. So you file all the necessary documents, pay the fees that are required, and then you register your business. With the filing of documents, if it is complicated and you will not be able to do everything by yourself, sometimes there are people there who, at a fee, can get the documents filled on your behalf. So if it is tedious or complicated or you cannot make time for it, then you can get some of these people to help you fill all the necessary information that has to be entered on the documents. And then you also have to check on how you intend to structure your capital. Okay, if it's a partnership, you want to show how the partnership will cater for the capital. Okay, so what is the percentage? How much percentage are you putting in? What is your other partner putting in? If there are more than two partners, how will the company be split among the people involved in the business? Okay, it's also important to put together agreements, employee agreements, where you get to know how you want your employees to work, and then it is duly communicated to them. And the communication will be done with the agreements that they will sign. Okay, so it's important to draft the employee agreements as well. And then you also need your documents for incentive stock options. Okay, so for this, if you don't intend to get on the stock market with your business, then you really don't need um to do this. But it's important that whilst you once you start the business, it's important that you get an advisor, someone who will advise you on all of these legal issues, because we may not be knowledgeable in the law. And if you are not careful, some of these things may get you in a complicated issue. So it's most of the times advisable that when you want to start a business, you get in touch with someone who will help you with the legal aspects of your business. But basically, these are the areas that you may want to focus on so that you don't get yourself in any issues. Okay, so you will need legal help in the copyrights, the trademarks, your patents, contracts, your agreements. Okay. There are times that if you are renting a place, you need help with coming up with the agreement. Or if you are not the one who is developing the agreement, and maybe the landlord or the landlady has put together an agreement for you, it's important that your lawyer goes through the documents and advise you on what to do. Okay, maybe there are some clauses in there that will not um be of benefit to your company, or that will not be in the interest of your company, and so you will have to be advised accordingly. Okay, how to be working with your employees, how to deal with them. Okay, when it comes to stock ownership, what are you going to do about it? Franchising, all of those issues require that you seek legal help. Okay, so it's important that you get someone by your side who will advise you when it gets to some of these issues, especially when it comes to government and regulatory reporting, tax issues, and all of those, right? Okay, so that takes us to intellectual property. If we say intellectual property basically refers to creations of the mind. So you have your inventions, your literary and artistic works, you have symbols, names, images, and designs that are used in business. Okay, so all of these creations of the mind are such that they can qualify as properties, despite the fact that we may not be able to touch them and we may not feel them like we can feel a house and we can feel a car. They are also creations of the mind, and so they are properties. We call them intellectual property. So you have two categories of this. You have the industrial property, and then you can also have the copyright. The industrial property includes inventions, where you have your patents, you have your trademarks, industrial designs, and the geographic indications of source, right? All of those are your industrial property. Then you have copyright, which includes the artistic works, your literary works. Okay, so if you have come up with a novel or a poem or a play, a film, okay, a musical work, all of those paintings, photographs, sculptures, and architectural designs, all of those qualify and can be protected under copyright. Okay, so if you have any literary device or if you have any artistic work that has been protected under copyright, then it means that you have rights that would limit the use of that literary works to just you. Okay, so if it's such that it can be performed, maybe it's a music that can be performed, or it's a novel, okay, you realize that the right to perform that song, or the right to use that movie, or the right to distribute that artistic work is limited to just you. Okay, so the rights related to copyright include those of performing artists in their performances. What it means is that nobody else will be able to perform it if you have not given the permission. You own the rights to that. Okay, then producers of phonograms in their recordings, and those of broadcasters in their radio and television programs. You own it, you have the rights to it. No one else can use it unless you have permitted it to be used. Okay, so IP rights refer to the general term for the assignment of property rights through patents, copyrights, and trademarks. And these property rights allow you, who is the holder, or it allows the holder to exercise a monopoly on the use of the item for a specified period. Okay, so if you registered whatever literary device it is, and maybe you own it for 10 years, what it means is that after 10 years, you would have to renew the registration. Otherwise, it means that it is now open for public consumption. Okay, so after some duration, you would have to renew the registration. Okay, so if you say intellectual property, the intellectual property term reflects the idea that its subject matter is a product of the mind or the intellect. Okay, so it's a property, but this time a property that is related to the production of the mind, or what the mind has been able to conceive, or something that your intellect has been able to create. Okay, so you have your patents, the trademarks, your industrial designs, copyright, and all of those. And the intellectual property has to be protected. And the way you protect your intellectual property is through the law. Okay, and just like you would for any physical assets like a house or a car, just like you would protect it, register it in your name, the intellectual property can also be owned, it can be bought, it can be bequeathed, right? And you can register it in your name like you would any other property. And the major features that distinguish it from other forms are their intangibility and non-exhaustion by consumption. What it means is that for the physical assets, as you use it, it gets finished or it can deteriorate. But with the intellectual property, you realize that it does not diminish in value as you make use of it, okay? And it does not really get finished. And it's also intangible. Apart from that, the same way we treat the physical properties, we also treat the intellectual properties. And you'll notice that the intellectual property is the foundation of the knowledge-based economy. It means that when you look at all the creations in the knowledge-based economy, you realize that IP is a foundation. Why? Because if what you have created with your mind is not preserved, is not protected, then it is open for everybody to use. Okay, so intellectual property is the foundation, or it's the basis of the knowledge-based economy. And in recent times, you realize that it is very important because organizations and businesses want to be distinguished from every other business. There's something that they want to have which is peculiar to them and not available to everybody. So you realize that organizations are paying attention to intellectual property. They are looking at what makes them stand out on the market and their ability to preserve that. Okay. All right. So we look at IP as a property. You realize that for every property, you can sell it, you can buy it, you can lease or rent it, you can pass it under a will, and it can also be assigned. All these can be done to the intellectual property also. So just like you can sell a house, you can sell an idea, you can sell a patent, you can sell a design, you can sell a painting, okay? So the IP is treated just like you would any other property that is visible to the eye and that can be touched, okay? So what then is the importance of protecting your intellectual property? Your IP is very important. Why? Because that is what makes your business different from other businesses. So if you look at competitors in your industry, Your IP is what makes your business different from every other business. And the intellectual property can be sold or licensed, which means that it can serve as another revenue stream for your business. So for example, if in the course of your business, you're able to come up with an idea, or you're able to come up with a story, or you're able to come up with the recording of a music or some peculiar thing that can be identified to your business, you realize that you can sell it or you can rent it out for some time, and that would bring you extra revenue. Okay. And then it can also be a form of giving customers something new, right? So we are exposed to a particular product on the market, and then based on your based on research, or based on your thinking, or based on something that you have done, you are able to come up with a different variety. You are able to come up with something that makes the product different from what is already on the market. What you have done is to offer customers something new and something different. Okay. And the IP, or your intellectual property, also forms an essential part of your marketing and your branding. You hear people talking about how unique their product or their service is from others on the market. When you listen to them well, you notice that what they are talking about is actually their intellectual property. Okay. And if your IP is registered, okay, and has been protected, then it means you can use your intellectual property as a security for loans, right? But if you have not protected it, no bank will take an IP that has not been registered as security. But if you have been able to register it and you have protected it, then it may be considered as a security for loans. So we'll look at the various kinds that you have. The first one is the copyright. A copyright is a law that gives you ownership over the things you create. So if you have come up with an innovation, if there's something new that you have that you want to reserve ownership of whatever it is you have created, then you go for copyright. Okay, so it can be a painting, it can be a photograph, it can be a poem, it can be a novel, or anything that you have made with your hands. Okay, it can be a design you have come up with. So once you created it, you own it, and it's the copyright law itself that assures that ownership. So once you have that creation of yours, then you register it and you have the sole ownership of that. Okay, and in Ghana, to be able to get copyright protection, you need to go to the Ghana Copyright Office to have it done. And the rights that you will get include the rights to reproduce the work. So maybe you have just one. If it has to be replicated, or if it has to be reproduced, no other person can reproduce that item or that product unless you have given permission. So you are the only one who has the right to reproduce the work. You are the only one who has the right to prepare derivative works. Preparing derivative works means that, for example, if you had a photo and you want to convert the photo to a video, you are the only one who can do that conversion. Otherwise, no one should prepare a video from your photograph. Okay, so you have the rights to prepare derivative works. You also have the sole rights to distribute your copies. No one should distribute the copies on your behalf unless you have permitted them. Okay, so you have the right to distribute your copies. And then if for any reason there's a live show that requires that you perform the work, you are the only one who has the permission to perform the work commercially. Okay. However, you can allow people to, so far as they have your consent, then they can also perform it. But if they do not have your consent and they perform it, you can go ahead and sue them. Okay. And then it also gives you the right to display the work publicly. All right. The copyright allows you the right to display your work publicly. Otherwise, no one will be able to do that. The next one we talk about are the trademarks. So we have copyright. Now we are looking at the trademarks. You see various trademarks here. These are logos that organizations use, right? And it is their trademark. So what then is a trademark? A trademark is a word or a phrase or a symbol. It can also be a design that identifies and distinguishes the source of the goods of one party from those of another. So if I pick Coke and I pick Pepsi, just looking at the bottle and looking at the marks on each of the bottles will make you know which bottle is associated to which organization, right? So the trademark is what identifies and distinguishes the source of one product from the other. Unlike patents and copyrights, trademarks do not expire. So copyrights, like I said earlier, once you register it, you are given copyright for some time. After the time elapses, it means that you no more own that creation unless you renew the registration. For trademarks, they do not expire. So trademarks do not expire after a set term of years. And the objective here is to register the trademark and provide for better protection of trademark for goods and services also, right? So it's important that once you come up with a design that that makes you distinguish the product from other products, it's important that you register that trademark so that just like your business name, no other organization will be able to use your exact trademark. Okay, so you register the trademark, and then that is what will help to protect the trademark for the various goods and services that you create. It also helps to prevent fraudulent use of the mark. So some time ago, we could see that some of the organizations, once they identify a known brand, or once they get to know that a brand has made waves, then what they do is that they take that organization's trademark and then make some small changes, some slight changes. So maybe if it is this, they'll put a dot somewhere or just something small somewhere. But once you see it, your mind will go to the industry player. Okay, and it will make you align to them as if they were the organization that you have in your mind. I wouldn't want to mention any organization here, but you realize that the trademark helps to prevent fraudulent use of the mark. Once you register your trademark, it's difficult for people to use the mark fraudulently, right? Then apart from trademarks, you have trade secrets. Trademarks are public, but trade secrets are such that the entrepreneur or whoever is managing the business has to keep them safe and has to keep them confidential. So trademarks are for public consumption, but trade secrets have to be kept confidential. A trade secret is a formula, it's a process or a device or other business information that is kept confidential to maintain an advantage over competitors. Okay, so your trade secret may be a special recipe that you have, or a secret formula that you have, or a secret process that you have for doing something that is not known to other competitors. So in that case, every time someone tastes your product or every time someone consumes your product, they get to know how unique your product is. Okay, so that is the trade secret. The trademark is for public consumption. It makes people identify your company, so it's all over the place. You can use it in your adverts, in your publicity ventures, and all of that. But the trade secret is such that it should be kept secret. And even for employees who are privy to the trade secrets, they have to ensure that they keep it as secret as they can. When they go out, or even when they leave your organization, they don't go out there to expose your trade secret. So the trade secret provides the owner of the information with a competitive advantage in the marketplace, and is treated in a way that can reasonably be expected to prevent the public or competitors from learning about it, except through improper acquisition or theft. So the only way that the public, or the only way that competitors should get to know about your the only way that competitors should get to know about your trade secret is when maybe they steal, or they try to get it from unauthorized or improper ways. Okay, like maybe coercing your employees to give out their trade secrets. So unlike other forms of intellectual property, the trade secret is most of the times an internal instrument. It is kept internally and not made available to everybody. Okay, so the trade secret, like we have said, is an information that includes a formula, a pattern, a compilation, a program or device, or a method or technique or process that derives independent economic value. The value can be actual or potential from not being generally known or readily ascertainable by others who can obtain economic value from its disclosure or use. Okay, it is the subject of reasonable efforts under the circumstances to maintain its secrecy. So you realize that this trade secret is an effective tool to protect intellectual property rights of an entrepreneur. So as you start your business, or as you do or you go about your operations, or as you provide the services that you have planned to provide, if you have any trade secrets, that thing that sets you apart from other businesses, it has to be kept confidential. Okay, it has to be kept confidential, and you ensure that as employees resign, they do not go out there to expose your trade secrets. The next one we look at is the patent. If you say a patent is an exclusive right that is granted for an invention, which is a product or a process that provides in general a new way of doing something, or offers a new technical solution to a problem. So the patent is an invention, okay? So something new that has not been done before, or you come up with a new process of doing something. Once you come up with that new process, you need to patent it. And once you patent it, it means that you have exclusive rights to that invention for 20 years. Okay, the patent rights are extended, or they are granted in exchange for an enabling public disclosure of the invention. Okay, and this is covered under the Patents Act. Okay, and what it does is that it gives the legislative framework for the grants and protection of patents in Ghana. Okay, and this one is located, the Patents Office is located at the Registrar General's Department. Okay, so when you go to the Registrar General's Department, they are responsible for the issuing of patents in Ghana. Okay. So in applying for the patent, the procedure in Ghana, it's been captured here, right? But the first is that you make a request, okay? And once you apply, first you need a request that contains a petition for the grant of the patent. So you have to provide the title of your invention and the particulars of the inventor or the applicant. So if you were the one who invented it, you provide your details. And then you provide the details of the invention, whatever it is that you came up with. If it was a process, if it was a product, you mention the title, and then you also provide your details. Then you also give a clear description of the invention. And this description is very detailed in a manner which will enable a person with ordinary skill in the art carry out the invention. What it means is that you have to give a detailed description of whatever it is that you came up with. Okay, you need to provide a very detailed description of your invention and how it came about. The reason why you do the documentation, so once you give this detailed description, it is documented so that in the near future, if you feel that someone is stealing your idea or someone is using your idea without permission from you, then it's easy to fight it legally because the way yours was invented has been documented. Okay. And then you also need one or more claims defining the matter for which the patent protection is sought. Okay, so you have to explain why you want the why you are coming for the application. Why do you want the rights reserved for you? So you state that. And then you provide a drawing when necessary. So if whatever it is you came up with is a physical thing or it's a process or it's a product, you need to provide a drawing where necessary for the understanding of the invention in a sufficiently clear manner. So you have to give a sketch of whatever it is or whatever invention you have come up with. You have to provide a sketch, okay? And then you also need an abstract that provides a detailed technical information about your invention, right? So once you're able to do all of this, then you apply. The application has to be in triplicate and is subject to the payment of the application fees. So you submit your documents, all right, in three copies, okay, and then you make payments for your fees. After which, after some time, a decision on the patent application is required under the law to be given not later than 2 years. So once you put in your application, you have up to 2 years to get a response from the department. Okay. So given not later than 2 years after commencement of examination of the application. So once you submit everything and they start with the examination of your documents, you have up to 2 years to hear from them. Okay, but sometimes it takes longer than 2 years. But once you get the patent, your application goes through and you get the patent, you have it active for up to 20 years. After 20 years, you have to reapply or you may lose the rights that you have for that patent. Okay. So that's it for the copyright. We spoke about the trademarks, we've spoken about the trade secrets, and then patents. So once you start your business, it's important that, like I said earlier, you get someone who is knowledgeable in the law to help you, okay, to give you advice on what to do. First, concerning your business name, you need to make sure that the business name you plan to use is not already being used by another business. It's very important, okay? So once you have this check done, and you register your business name, you are sure that no other person will also use the business name you have chosen so far as your registration is active. Okay, but if the registration is not active and your business is deactivated from the system, it means someone else can use your business name. Okay, you also have to look at your structure, how you are going to structure your organization. All right, you need to see, you need to be able to structure the organization in a way that will suit your business. So depending on what you want to do, you may want to structure your business accordingly. Okay, if it's a sole proprietorship you want to have, you will need to look at it and then register your business as a sole proprietor. If it's a partnership or limited partnership, if it's a corporation or limited liability business, whichever one you have chosen to use, you need to be sure about it. And as you go to the Registrar General's department to register the business, you are sure what you want to do in your mind. Okay, some of the forms are different. For example, the form for a sole proprietor is not the same as if you want to register a limited liability company. So you have to know what you want to do so that by the time you get there, you are not now going to think about what to do. Then there are also issues concerning licenses. Sometimes, depending on the kind of business you want to run, okay, you need permits. For example, if it's a construction company you want to run, you need permits. Okay, if you don't have the license or if you don't have the permits, you would have registered the business all right. Okay, but you cannot get any contract, you cannot work on any project because you do not have the permit or the license to work. So beyond registering the business, if you need the license or the permit to work based on the industry in which you find yourself, beyond the registration of the business, you also have to acquire the license or the permit for carrying out that work. Then you also think about non-disclosure agreements. Remember, we spoke about the trade secrets, and we said that as much as possible, the trade secrets should be kept confidential. So if your trade secret will be kept confidential, it means that people who work with you or people who are closely related to you should have some documents they have signed that will ensure that they keep such information as private and as confidential as they can. So whether they have left the business or whether they have started their own businesses or whether they are working with your competitor, they should keep their mouths shut. Okay, so these non-disclosure agreements are such that you as an entrepreneur, you need them and you have to allow your employees to sign them so that outside firms will have access to business information that you may want to keep private. So you would have to prevent that. Okay, you ensure that employees, family members, people who are likely to take your trade secrets out, sign the non-disclosure agreement so that they don't take your business information out there, okay, and make it available to competitors. All right. Then you also have to consider zoning, okay? Look at the area in which you are, the geographical area in which you are, and know that every geographical area is governed by laws. So depending on where your business will be operating, you have to work with the laws of the land. So it's important that you keep this in mind, right? Thank you very much. I will be on standby for your questions. But what I want you to do is that for each of the groups, right, for the companies that you have come up with, I want you to identify some of the intellectual properties around the various businesses that you have suggested, okay? So these these intellectual properties should be listed as they relate to your business. So you list them as they relate to your business, and then you say how you are going to protect them, okay, and how you are going to make use of them, just like other properties. I believe this is clear. If you have any questions, let me know. You can share on our page, and then when we meet in class, we will discuss them. Thank you very much, and see you in class.